All right, today I wanted to go over kind of a topic that a lot of newer photographers ask about, and that is how to price your photography. I know when I first started, I was kind of not really all over the place, but I just wasn't really sure where to start. And that's what I want to go over today. We're going to do something that's called cost of doing business, a way that you're able to calculate how much you need to be making so that you're able to figure out around what you need to be charging based off of the average amount of sessions or weddings that you shoot in a year. And also, in case you haven't noticed, I've got my arm kind of braced up here. I had quite the accident the other day and really messed up my wrist, which sucks because over the next 4 days, I will be shooting various sessions. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But wish me best of luck with the wrist. Now there are various calculators that you can find online that will help you through all of this. But I've just kind of put it together on a Word document just so we can kind of walk through it so you can kind of see the different things that you need to be considering. So cost of doing business. This is figuring in all of your different things that are required for you to do business. You know, your software, spending money on advertising, your equipment maintenance. I think that's something a lot of people tend to forget about. Spending money on new equipment, more saving it. Saving money to be able to buy new things like lights, or if you need to replace a lens or a camera body, updating equipment. Gas for your vehicle when you're traveling. You've got to figure the cost in on that. You need to figure in the cost of your vehicle maintenance because you've got to maintain that vehicle throughout the year. Insurance, like your liability insurance and insurance on your equipment. Healthcare. Now this is going to be one that's a little different for everyone, but it's something you need to take into consideration. Now I've gone ahead and I've already filled this out with what my expenses are. So this is something you need to sit down and you need to figure out. How much does your software cost every year? Now the software I'm talking about is, like for me, it's Photoshop, it's Capture One, it's my CloudSpot, which is my CRM that does all of my contracts, my invoice, and my galleries. Next one is advertising. I think this is one that people tend to kind of forget about, and I do have a video out on how to advertise a little more correctly on Facebook, at least the way that it does work for me. But on average every year, I'm spending around $3,000 on advertisement, which for some, that might seem a little high, but that's usually about what I average. I average around $250 a month that I'm spending on Facebook, Instagram ads. Equipment maintenance, I figure it's about $500 every year that I'm spending on equipment maintenance. That's going to be any type of tune-ups that I need to have on my cameras, you know, the CLAs, maybe replacing out a grip or something like that. But that's usually about what I figure every year that I want to be keeping for just the maintenance on equipment. New equipment purchases. Every year I figure about $1,500. That generally can replace a lens, can replace a used camera body, and buying maybe new strobes, something like that. Maybe you want to update some of your equipment, anything like that. Gas, I also figure it's around $1,500 a year that I spend just in gas. It could be a little more, a little less. I figure about $40 for each session, you know, 4 sessions every month, bring you out to around $1,500 or so, plus minus. It's somewhere in there. But that's about what I figure every year. Vehicle maintenance, this is changing out the oil once a month. You know, I drive a lot for weddings, so I'm changing out the oil every month in my vehicle. I do change the oil myself, so that does help me save a little bit, but you got to figure that in. And then you're also going to need to figure out the cost of when you need to replace tires. That's where, you know, like your savings is going to come into play. Insurance. My insurance is around $1,500 a month. That is insurance on my equipment, and that is my liability insurance that is required in most of the venues when you are shooting weddings. Healthcare. This is going to be a big one. It's going to be different for everyone. For me, with my family, it runs me about $7,200 a year to be able to have healthcare, and I am the one that carries it. My wife could, so I could eliminate that cost from there, but I just have it in on mine. Savings. I prefer having around $10,000 worth of savings, but this is something that I usually don't figure in It's just what it is that I try to do every year. I try to make sure that there is savings there. You want to make sure that you have a savings kind of put together, because you just don't know, maybe one year you shoot 25 weddings, the next year you're only booking 15 weddings. You want to make sure you have that little bit of cushion for those just unknown times. I did go ahead and I changed out. I forgot to include the savings into it. So that brings out my total to $27,388 that I have to be bringing home every year just to be able to cover my expenses, my healthcare, adding in the savings to it. Now, if I want to bring home a $40,000, that means $40,000 that is in my pocket after all expenses. I need to be making a total of $67,388 a year. So now let's take that number and break it down into individual sessions so that we kind of get an idea of what we need to be charging. Now I've already gone and filled this one out again here. So we have our number from the other sheet, that $67,388. That is what it is that we need to be making in a year to be able to pay ourselves $40,000 and be able to cover all of our expenses. So that breaks down to $5,615 per month. Now, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but you got to remember, with photography, depending on where you live at, there's quite a few months, especially here in the Midwest, that we're not really shooting, so we have some downtime. Now, with me being a wedding photographer, that's how I'm going to show this here. So at an average of 24 weddings per year, which is around what I average. I usually average about 20 to 25 weddings per year. Breaks down to 2 weddings per month, so your total wedding cost would have to be $2,800 per wedding to be able to get to the $67,388. Actually comes out to $67,200 if you're getting $2,800 per wedding. Now, $2,800 per wedding is very much a doable expense here in the Midwest. Actually, there's some that go even further. Here in the Midwest, the wedding cost range is around $1,500 all the way up to, I've seen them at $6,500, $7,000 per wedding. So for me here, $2,800 is around that middle ground and is a very doable price for weddings here. Now, putting together a cost of doing business is something that I suggest to every photographer. So you can get an idea. As you're starting out, you can start getting that idea in your head of how much it would cost you to be able to do this full time. Maybe you don't want to take it full time, but you need to make sure that you're covering your expenses, at least covering all your software costs and your equipment costs. You don't want to be paying out of pocket. But then having this number, you can punch all of this into, say, an Excel spreadsheet, and you can kind of monitor it as you go along and start kind of getting a better idea of, maybe I do need to pick up some more sessions. Maybe I do need to raise my prices a little bit. And when it comes to raising prices, that's all going to be on your skill set. What do you bring to the table that is different from anybody else in your area to be able to justify even raising those prices? So I hope that takes out a little mystery on how to price photography and how to keep track of some of your expenses and what it costs for you to run a successful photography business. Hit like and subscribe. I'll be posting more educational content throughout the year.